Can your skills stand the test of time? A new survey finds that the majority of employees are confident, but their bosses are not so much. And for a closer look into this, we're joined by Alvin Goh, Executive Director of the Singapore Human Resources Institute. Alvin, what are some of the reasons for this gap then in how employers and employees perceive skills competency?
I think the first key thing is that business leaders may be more cognizant and aware of the new technologies that have, the potentially to impact their business models, vis-a-vis the regular foreign employees. I think that's where the number one differences in terms of the perceptions of skill gaps are. And I think also, on the other hand, employees themselves may find themselves very comfortable in their current roles. And perhaps also to some extent, they do not really have a growth mindset and remain confident in their current skill sets. So on the other hand, it's like, I think what's really worrying right now is that given the changing environment, it's like saying that I have 20 years of experience, but the reality could be in the next 3 to 5 years, 20 years of not so relevant experience. And I think that's where the worrying part is.
Alvin, certainly the landscape is changing as far as employment is concerned, but are these gaps in expectations more apparent in certain industries?
I think for one, based on what we are seeing itself, I think number one, the worrying industry is that the construction industry, and also perhaps maybe to some extent the general retail industries are where the apparent gaps are. The narrative is going to be very different when you talk about having a retail strategy versus a tech-driven retail strategy. So the narrative on that perceptions in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be very different. If you look at the likes of Lazada and Shopee and so forth, which are basically tech-driven organizations and industries themselves, comparing to the mom and pop shop, I think that's a major area of concern, right? And I think on the other hand, just to be fair, I think we are making very good progress in the manufacturing and supply chain industries. We are seeing a lot of greater adoption of data and tech to drive their transformation agenda.
And what are the implications then of this gap, and what impact could it have on Singapore's economic transformation?
I think definitely the current narrative is going to be just simply like, we're going to see a productivity downturn, we're going to see FDI droppings and everything. But I think more importantly, is that if I really look at what's currently in the workplace today, with transformation and change going on, and just a couple of days ago, a HR leader, business leader just shared, if a candidate was to come and apply for a HR job and the response is going to be just like, oh, I like working with people, I think that's not going to cut it anymore, all right? It's definitely not going to put that candidate through the door. Right. And I think even in HR as a function, it's really transforming. And we are also using so much more technology today and data as well to help our business leaders really compete in the marketplace. Right. And if you really look at what's really happening in terms of the Singapore population itself, with the digital nomads coming into the workplace and so forth, the last time I checked, we have about in terms of ages of 14 to 19, we have about 200,000, and the number goes down and down. And if you really think about it, if organizations and employees do not pivot themselves to adopt the transformation that is so necessary today, they might be left on the sidelines, holding a hiring sign and unable to find any employees, because the digital nomads will not want to join an organization with manual processes. They will want to join an organization that has got progressive people practices, and on top of that, technology advanced capabilities as well.
That certainly puts potential candidates under a lot of pressure in terms of finding, jobs and knowing that, they can actually sort of, upskill or train or have those competencies that are expected. But institutes of higher learning programs, Alvin, they typically run between 2 and 4 years. So is there a risk, perhaps, of the skills that are being picked up becoming outdated by the time these students graduate?
Yeah, I think definitely we run the risk of learned skills being outdated itself. And honestly, to some extent, I think IHLs themselves, they should really disrupt themselves, because what I'm aware of is like it takes about a 2-year timeline for curriculum to be approved itself. And I mean, to be fair to some of the IHLs, I've learned a lot from them. But more so importantly, I've learned more, right? And from practitioners who turn academia, all right? And I think that's something that we need to really look into, having more practitioners turn academia, and also for practitioners themselves to really get invited back into the classroom to share, what's really happening, what the challenges, what are the issues that they're seeing in the workplace itself, and not only to students but to academias themselves, right? So that they can actually take away what's really happening in the context of the business environment, and take that and then develop the necessary content for our students themselves.
Alvin, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. We've been speaking there to Alvin Goh, Executive Director of the Singapore Human Resources Institute.